Well, hey y'all. I know it's been a while. Had a lot on my plate, been doing a lot of stuff, but really wanted to do a deep dive today and have a chat and open conversation about our food and grocery supply chain. So I got another email today from one of the other bigger companies who grow 100% inside, which you would call one, one of them called 80 Acre Farms. And so they grow 100% indoors under lights, those types of facilities. And they grow all kinds of lettuces and greens and microgreens and so forth. And they supply almost all the major grocery stores. And they are filed a full Chapter 7, and they are going to liquidate. And I don't think that they're going to be opening back up. And they were the second largest. So the largest one in Compton, California, went out of business not too long ago as well. And there has been 5 others in the last few years. And do I, as a farmer, feel like that they're on the wrong end of the farming industry? No, but their biggest problem that they run into trying to keep financing afloat and all the rest of that is that they're using way too much energy to do this. Electricity. And the electricity is just power bills through the roof. And also their footprint. If you think about that, they're supplying 90% of the major, like Walmart, for instance. They were Walmart's biggest produce facilitator. And so you're supplying Walmart, you're supplying Publix, you're supplying Kroger's and HEB out in Texas and so forth. And when you are that big, your overhead is just way too much. And I don't think that indoor farming is something that should be thought of as bad. I just think that the way that these companies are choosing to do so is not smart. So as a farmer, multiple generations of feeding America before even America was America, I have discussed with some of my children as far as actually starting some indoor farming starting in 2027 as we get sold and moved and so forth and back up and running and reopened out of the state of Florida, who is now just absolutely seems to hate farmers, taxing us out like there's just no tomorrow because, they just want to fill this whole entire state with cookie cutter houses that are so on top of one another that you can't even sneeze without 3 neighbors hearing it. So with that being said, if someone else is thinking about doing a startup and you've thought about starting indoor farming, I would hope that you would consider what your roof looks like. If you're paying for electricity, but yet you can get natural sunlight through your roof system, that cuts your power bill by almost 80%. And you also need to think about possibly how your gravity-fed watering system hydroponically is also working. And could you go from hydroponics to growing in the air? Could you go to maybe growing in sand? So those things that would be a one-time cost. You wouldn't have to, obviously pay for them over and over and over again. And you also have to think about the natural fertilizers, because I am not pro mosaic. A lot of people know that. They know that I'm not pro chemical fertilizers. I do feel like that we have enough compost and waste going to the landfills that if things were properly implemented, that you could make all the natural fertilizer that you possibly could use to feed your system, and then negating that as well, with it just being a one-time cost to set those things up. And I also feel like that scaling is super important as well too. So I think trying to grow so big that you're growing for the whole United States and for all of Walmart's and all of Kroger's and all of HEB's and all of the Targets and all of and so forth and so forth and so forth, that is definitely a money-driven ideology. Whereas I feel if you grew enough to maybe supply your state and maybe 2 or 3 local surrounding states, and even that is probably just too much, because then you're going to run into quality control issues, and then you have the logistics of the trucking and the shipping and the packing and all the extra supplies and materials that go along into all of this. And so I don't think that indoor farming, or factory farming as they're calling it, is a bad thing. I just think that how they're doing it is completely wrong. Because we do grow greens here, as you guys know, and some of you guys have come and gotten cabbage from us, and onions and strawberries, and and we grow a very large amount of vegetables and peas and beans, and which of course vegetables too, but the variety of things in which we grow here on such a small footprint has to do with seasonal, and also our weather, climate, and yes, it's here in Central Florida we can grow a lot of things year round. But with that being said, if you get into the factory farming, you're able to grow a wide variety of things because your environment is more controlled, and you can control the climate, the humidity, the wind, all of those things. And I really have, as we make this move and get this place sold, and along with the other properties sold, and we truly move from Florida 100%, when we reopened back up and reestablished, it was going to be more indoor greenhouse growing. And I would still have fields as well, because I definitely need to bring in my pollinators and so forth, and I want to be able to grow what I can grow almost year round up where we're planning to go. But because of the cold weather crops, some of them will even take snow. And especially with these Russian variety cabbages that, I brought in, that some of you guys have gotten to have and taste, that we grew this past year. So do I think that you need to be worried about your grocery supply chain? I do. I think because everybody is getting way too big for their britches, instead of just taking care of feeding your state and maybe the grocery stores in your state, and instead of wanting to do it nationwide. That I just think that is just wrong. Just like, have you gotten a peach at the grocery store in the last 5, 6, 7, even almost 10 years now? It doesn't taste like peach. Apples don't taste like apples anymore. Everything being brought in out of South America, it's not that the growers in South America are doing a bad job, but to get it here, everything is picked so green, so unripe. Nothing has the ability to have the flavonoids ripen and develop inside of the pieces of fruit before they're even picked and put into a box and then gassed, to ripen it. And then everything's mealy. I mean, even the texture is just terrible. I can't imagine that my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren would not ever have the ability to eat and taste what we were able to. If you were born in the 70s, early 80s, and even way before then, you know what real food tastes like. And so I think that as I bring some of this to an end, I really think that we should have an honest discussion and what your thoughts are and your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to like and share. As far as, would you be able to prefer, and would you like to be able to come and do more farm pickup? Would you prefer to know that your produce is being grown in the state in which you are living in? Because a lot of that has to do with consumerism, as far as what you're willing to pay. Letting the grocery stores know, hey, I'm not eating those nasty peaches. I'm not going to eat those apples. I'm not going to eat those cucumbers and cantaloupes and watermelons that came out of South America. And let the management know. And I wouldn't say, you know, a boycott of the store, but you need to write the home offices. You need to let the store managers know in your local grocery stores that, hey, I know so and so down the road, you know, that they grow X, Y, and Z, and they've been trying to get a contract with you forever. And, you know, I would prefer to eat their food than what they grow, because I know that they're not using, you know, chemicals and pesticides that I would prefer not to have in my food. So, you know, and if you as consumers, if you guys can draw more attention to that and write those letters, make those phone calls, do it in person, I think that you would have better quality food, better tasting food, and you would know where it comes from, and you would know your farmer. So with that being said, I hope everyone has an absolutely wonderful and blessed, I think today's Wednesday, and wish us all luck. You know, because a lot of us farmers want to continue to farm, but we have to be able to have a place to be able to sell said products in which we grow and the produce. You know, we just, whether it's meats and vegetables or fruits or herbs or microgreens, mushrooms. You know, the grocery stores need to be held accountable and look for growers who can provide, you know, the local produce, because y'all's supply chain, if you think everything comes from the back of Publix, you're dead wrong. And y'all are going to start seeing less and less and less on the shelves. And I know over the last 2 years, everybody's produce departments inside of the grocery stores are shrinking. They've shrunk by half. So you think about that. So anyways, ciao for now. Love y'all. Hope everyone has a wonderful and blessed day.